Well, I've been on the school board for now about, I don't know, 8 months. But prior to that, I've been very involved in the school system since my children entered into elementary school about 6 years ago. So both my girls go to Molly Stark, and I've been very involved in Molly Stark ever since they started there, and have just wanted to really kind of move that forward and be able to be an influence and, maybe make some changes in, our educational system and be able to provide quality education for all our students within our districts.
Well, I hope to be elected to the newly merged board to continue some of the work that I began with the Bennington School District School Board this year. Nearly 1 year into my first term ever serving a school board, and it's been rewarding. It's certainly been educational, and I hope to be able to continue in that vein with the newly merged board.
Well, I've been on the board, several boards actually, for the last 5 or 6 years, the Shaftsbury Elementary Board and the MAU board, and I've also served on the SU board for several of those years. And I've been on a number of committees. I've served in clerk position, the vice chair position on a couple of the boards, and I chair the education committee. I chaired the SU finance committee last year. So I think I've got the the board experience, the committee experience, and understand how things tend to work.
Okay, well, my background, I've been in the collision business. That's what I've done for the last 30 years. I ran for the board in 1988, and I've been on the Shaftsbury board till current. This year's 2017-18. I've served on the MAU board for about 25 years. I've served on the CDC board for 10 or 12 years. Been on the SVSU since 1988. I participated in teacher negotiations since 1988. Been on ESP negotiations. I've been chair of the Shaftsbury School Board. I've been vice chair of MAU, SVSU, and I know how this whole system works. I've pushed for open teacher negotiations. That took 7 years to do because I'm like a dog with a bone. If we can make it transparent more for the taxpayers, that's what we need to do.
Hello, my name is Jackie Kelly, and my background is totally education. I've been an educator almost all my life, and I know school boards, I know teachers, and with my background, I even know more about remedial students than most people do because I spent over 20 years teaching learning disabled children and specializing in reading. The test scores today kind of tell us all the unique things that we need to know about how to improve our students. And so, yes, for the past 4 years since I've been on the board, all these questions have come up, and I assure you that I am looking into these answers too.
What in my background makes me a good choice for the school board? I think a good choice is I worked as a paraeducator in the district for 4 years. I spent 1 year in the middle school teaching math. I think that I get inside of the school there. Also, I have a child in the school, and I care about my child. I care about the other children in the school and want the best educations they have possible.
I am a longtime community member. I have 2 elementary school age children. I have one in 5th grade and one in 3rd. I'm a business owner, property owner, and I love the community, and I intend to be here for a very long time.
Well, at the moment, I am already on the Woodford School Board. I have been a member now for about 2.5 years. I came on board because they had a vacant seat, and from there I went on the ballot when that had expired. I'm in touch with all the folks that are already there, and I also have my son JT is in Woodford School, so I'm really looking out for the school. the main reason that I live in Woodford is because of that school.
Nice.
So yeah, I really love that school. I love the faculty there. I love all the folks there. It just, I'd really like to be able to look out for it. That's all.
My name is Tim Holbrook, and I've been serving on the Mount Anthony School Board for a number of years. I've been in education all my life, both in public and private schools, and I believe in the education system that we have here in Bennington.
Yes, I do. I believe that it's, at this point, it's going to not only, bring us together as a community, and not just be Bennington, Pownal, Shaftsbury, Woodford, but really, give us the ability to gain efficiencies and really get down to the business and cut through the red tape and the bureaucracy of having all these individual boards and be able to make decisions as a full community and not individual boards.
I think the proposed merger is absolutely a positive step forward for the school system. We have this sense, once 7th grade rolls around, we have this acknowledgement that these are all of our kids, regardless of which town they come from. But the way that the current governance is set up for our elementary schools, there's this real sort of false sense of the divide. Bennington from Woodford, from Shaftsbury, from Pownal. And that divide, that illusion goes away in the 7th grade. So what this merger can do is to fulfill that promise already established by the supervisory union with an acknowledgement that these are all of our kids and we should all be invested in all of their education, regardless of what town they might live in right now. So I think it's absolutely, for that reason alone, is a tremendous step forward for us.
That's a great question. The merger that's been proposed, I think, is the best of a set of not necessarily very good options. Act 46 was 3 years ago first proposed, and we've been debating it ever since, but the debate effectively ended, or the important part of it ended probably a year and a half ago. And locally, the committee that's been that came up with the proposal, I think, did a good job. Given the alternative, which is essentially a forced merger that the state will very likely impose on us, taking advantage of the restrictions on school closings and so forth that have been worked into the agreement. In addition, the tax savings over the next 4 years, which people have tended to dismiss a little bit, those are real, and I would hate to be in a position in the spring explaining to a voter why their tax rate had gone up 8 cents instead of stayed flat.
I do not. I'm not going to vote for this merger. I think if we have a chance to submit what we're doing now, especially in Shaftsbury, it's been, all the districts are basically, we're 85% consolidated anyway. I think instead of going with the proposal we have, because once we go with it, that's it. There's no turning back. I think we should vote this thing down and then go back to, like I said, in fact, I brought the sheet with me. And the first thing is they'd be required to submit a report to the state end of 2017 justifying their current governance structure. The incentives that they are putting out there, I don't trust the state for a minute. Plus the fact is every other year we've had unfunded mandates, and I'll give a pre-K as one. I don't know how many, couple $100,000 it cost us, and when we were doing our budget, we said we were going to have this money, and then all of a sudden they pull it. So that's an unfunded mandate, so it just explodes your budget out of control.
I do. I think this proposed merger is a welcome factor for enabling us to focus on education and not focus just on meetings. Meetings kind of take up most of our time, and we have a rare opportunity to focus on learning situations, how to improve our schools. We're more concerned with our budgets in each district, and I think by joining together, we'll see a much improved school system and a much more focused school system. We tend to think that each area in our district, in each of the districts, need meetings and need local control, and I do too. But there's nothing to prevent us from looking at each one of these districts and having subcommittees.
I think the proposed merger is going to be a positive step for the proposed system. We're seeing a decline in students over the years. Eventually this will become a bigger issue in class sizes, and if you have the merger, it will provide opportunities further down the road. I think the first couple years is to be getting your feet wet and trying to build on what we have to make it a better educational system.
I do feel like the merger is going to be a positive step forward. I think it's going to give our staff an opportunity to move around within the district a bit more freely. It'll allow children to have school choice. It will streamline education and give us some added bonuses and incentives to have all the kids get the education that they deserve.
I think it has its good points and its bad points, but then again, I think everything does. I am interested to see how this all works out and how it pans out. My concern would be that I don't want to see the Woodford school close. And it is a small school, so the way that the state has been talking, and from what I've been reading in the papers, it makes me a little nervous to actually hear what the state is saying. And I think that was the main reason for the Act 46 law, to be honest, was to try and save money. And that's pretty much it. That's all the Act 46 law was about, in my opinion. If it does pan out and works out great, it would be nice to see maybe Woodford become maybe a specialty school, or like an incubator type school, such as Nature's Classroom started in Woodford. And now a whole bunch of students from different schools have been able to join and go, and they love it. So things like that.
I'm not sure. It depends how it all plans out. Let me give you an example of things that concern me. For instance, if Pownal or Shaftsbury wanted to put an addition on their building that would house a language lab, let's just say, that then would become part of their budget, which then would be rolled into the overall budget of all the districts. And the likelihood of it passing, I feel, would be less, and it would give the residents of Pownal or Shaftsbury not the same opportunity that they have now to increase the opportunities available in their particular school. I also don't believe that necessarily bigger is better. On the other side of the coin, I think that there are certainly some advantages in terms of consolidation of administrative, particularly in central office. We'll just have to see how it all pans out.
I think that any additional enrichment programs or opportunities to kind of expand outside of the educational norm and the core curriculum are just benefits. And I understand that budgetary reasons we're not able to do that individually as schools, but that's one of the things that I really hope that the merger will be able to allow us to do, and play at that large number within our community and be able to bring children from the different districts together in different enrichment programs and educational programs for the arts or music or science, just to further their education and be able to expand their knowledge past just the regular elementary curriculum.
So certainly, as we saw recently with the test scores coming out of the 3 BSD schools, there's huge room for improvement, both in the sort of snapshot test scores we see with some of the tests, but also in that growth over time that some of our other standardized tests measure. We have some fantastic strategies available to our schools. We have the PBIS, which is the sort of character development which happens within schools. We have the multi-tiered systems of support, which sort of meet students where they're at in terms of helping them to reach grade level and to reach proficiency. And if we can embrace all of those with a full heart and with all of our energies, I think that can really carry us to where we want to be with regard to our test scores and with regard to our grade of academic growth.
Well, one of my pet improvement ideas would be to start the school day later in the morning at the middle school and high school level. So the Mount Anthony High School starts before 8 o'clock. There's lots of data, lots of research that shows that students do better when they're not asked to be in the classroom at that time of day. There are obviously challenges with that, scheduling challenges, conflicts with after-school activities, bus routes, and all of that would have to be taken into account. But this has been done in other parts of the state, including Brattleboro. Several years ago, they invested time into looking into what it would take to make that change, and they did it.
Well, I'd like to see the curriculum improved. I'd like to see teacher time with students improve, and administrators spending more time in the schools themselves.
I, for one, would like to see special education improved. At our May meeting last year, one of our constituents asked us about special education and how we were improving our schools. Nobody to date has looked at the test scores and disaggregated the data so that we can see how regular students are improving and how special education students are improving. I would like to see disaggregated data and see how much our special education students are doing as well as our regular students. I think if you look at the data, you will find that our regular students are improving. But because we have a surplus of special education students, we don't see that data in each year.
One aspect of the schools I'd like to see improved, I'd like to see some of the reading test scores come up. That's an area that I believe we can work on. A lot of it's going to be more increase in early intervention. You're seeing the numbers in the test scores as low. If you can intervene early on and mediate, you should be able to bring a bunch of the kids up if you look at a lot of the evidence-based studies that are out there on early education reading.
I think I just said that in the last question, which is I would like to see children have an opportunity to move around within the district a bit more freely. There is some talk of potentially in the future having different schools specialize in different areas. I think that is something, unfortunately, my kids will never get to see because they'll be out of elementary by then. But hopefully other students will have an opportunity to take advantage of that, and staff will be able to take advantage of moving around more freely.
I think they've been making quite a few improvements. I mean, as far as like with testing and how the kids are learning and bringing that aspect of it together, I think is they've been doing a really good job. I've been following that, obviously, and it seems like they've been doing a real good job with that. So I think that's, as long as we keep trying to improve what's best for our kids, I think that's the best thing.
Okay, I'd like to see the general literacy program carefully examined. I'm a firm believer that the basis of all academic education starts with the ability to read and comprehend what you're reading. And it's essential that those skills are imparted to the children at a young age. And if you wait too long, there are all sorts of situations that arise that make it increasingly difficult for that child to stay in the norm in terms of what the other students are doing. So I would like to see us place a strong emphasis on developing literacy skills at a young age and the opportunity for those people that haven't reached those skills to gain them very quickly if it becomes obvious that they don't have them.
I think they're doing a great job. I know that I've seen it definitely in the schools that my girls go to, and I know that I've heard about it in other elementary schools, but specifically I know they're doing it within BSD, just being as part of the board there, but that real focus on the behavioral aspects and the tiered program, and being able to, not only teach towards curriculum, but be able to ensure that we're helping with the behavioral issues and any other emotional situations that they have going on. And I think we're doing a really good job of, managing that and making great steps towards that. We have a long way to go, but I think we've come very far in kind of pushing that agenda and making sure that we're focusing on those things as well, because those are the foundations. If we can get the kids in the seats and paying attention and engaged, then the education will come behind.
What we have, and we see this regardless of whether it's parents' input, whether it's staff input sort of about each other, whether it's community input, we have this hugely dedicated pool of teachers and educators within our school system. They will stick with us regardless of whether the merger happens, whether it doesn't, regardless of what governance looks like. We need to honor those folks because they have just a relentless pace to their work. They have just endless demands made of them professionally. So we need to honor them, and not just honor them with our words, but certainly with our actions as well. So I'm very grateful for the teachers we have, and I'm glad that they'll be sticking around.
We have a pretty reasonable staff to student ratio in our local schools, teachers to student ratio, I should say, and our average spending per student is pretty reasonable. You often hear that Vermont spends the most per student of any state in the country. That's true, but it's not because of the way that we're spending here in our corner of the state. So any efforts to control spending should be directed where they belong, and we here should not be expected to reduce teaching staff or other positions simply to make changes that really should be looked at in other parts of the state.
Well, I know at Shaftsbury we have a good group of teachers. We have after-school programs. I'd like to keep those. I'd like to see how we could do things differently, look at subjects that if they can be combined or something like that, which we've done over the years anyway. We don't need Act 646 to do that. We've been doing it for years, so I'd like to see things like that stay.
Well, one of the things I think that our schools do well is that we have a wonderful superintendent and a wonderful staff at our head office, and they seem to do well in combining the great efforts for the teachers, and they seem to guide us in the right ways so that we're not just focusing on one element of education. We look at the whole picture. For instance, improving our heating system last year for the BSD, we're going to save a considerable amount of money. And I think if the whole district, all the districts look at that type of system, we will indeed save more money. And I like it when more people get together to look at one problem rather than just having 5 to 7 people look at one problem.
I think one thing our schools do well is we have a great group of teachers in all the schools. They are caring for the children. Some people will debate that, but if you have a chance to talk to the teachers, they're doing it because they enjoy the students. They engage the kids. And I come from Shaftsbury, so I can speak from Shaftsbury experience. The teachers there engage the kids. They know the children. The principals know the children up there, and that's one thing I find as a positive influence. Because I bring my kid to go to school, and the parents know the teachers. The kids are open with the teachers, and I like that. I like that relationship the teachers have with the students.
I think I really like our teachers and our administrators. I think by and large we have really great teachers and administrators that are really vested in our kids. I think as a current sitting school board member, I like to see them supported. I like them to know that they have an ear when they need help, and I would like to see that continue. And I think the new format will allow for that.
Well, I know during like all the study committees and everything for the Act 46, there was a lot of folks that were kind of worried about their school as compared to our school kind of thing. And I think that everybody kind of did get together and improved talking. I mean, all the teachers are just outstanding. I mean, my daughter Hope has been in a couple different schools, and faculty around here is just incredible. These folks are just incredible.
Oh gosh, I think that we have some very, very good teachers in particular, and I think that I'd like to see them have more influence on what the curriculum is and how things are handled. I think we have some exceptionally good teachers, and I think that we should take full advantage of them.
Definitely just ensuring that, I'm hearing the constituents within my community and what, is important to them, and making sure that that's part of, the voice that I'm bringing to the board as a whole, and ensuring that that's factored into the decisions that we're making, and, being that conduit for our community members to make sure that they feel that they still have a voice in the board.
Sure, this idea of local control has been bandied about, and the idea is that if the merger happens, we're somehow surrendering local control. That's not true at all. These communities, our communities, elected people to serve on our school boards, and those people that were chosen by the citizens have created this plan for our community. To vote no on this merger says, hey, Agency of Education, hey, state, come down and tell us what to do. And that is the ultimate surrender of local control. So this idea that somehow voting for the merger gives away local control, it doesn't hold water. And in fact, to do the opposite, as I said, is that surrender of all of it. It says, we don't want to have a voice in what our schools look like. You go ahead and tell us what to do, state agency. So I don't buy into that at all. I think in order for us to maintain our local control, we buy into this plan that we as communities have already created. We have the governance structure in the merger plan that allows for people to continue to vote for their representatives, to continue to have a voice. All of our board meetings will still stay open. Every decision we make as a merged board will remain a public decision. And so I don't see where the argument is that somehow the merger gives away the sense of local control. It doesn't make any sense to me. So absolutely, voting for the merger is a vote for local control. Absolutely.
Well, if the merger passes, we'll still have Shaftsbury. We'll have 2 seats on the new board, and the board members will be all people that I know and have worked with in the past. And I don't anticipate, at least among that initial group, anybody doing anything that would single out a particular district. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think that there's opportunity for Shaftsbury and the other towns that will no longer have their own board to still have a voice, and that could be in the form of some sort of a volunteer group, a forum that met occasionally, worked with the principal, worked with the board members, and so forth.
Awesome.
Act 46. I don't think anybody knows what Act 46 is or how it's going to work, but I would at least try to make sure we have a voice. Shaftsbury especially has a voice at the table, because I think it's important. I mean, you have, I've worked very, very hard over the years to save the town of Shaftsbury a lot of money. We've saved millions of dollars. And I see what's happening, newer board members getting on and coming into the future. Everybody likes to spend money that they don't have, and you can't do that to people. You got taxpayers, You've got, and I realize teachers and everybody are taxpayers too, but you got people that are finding it very, very hard to live in their community and they want to stay there. You have people on fixed incomes. You have the people that, are just, they can't even fix their home. So I know that's, yeah, I think I speak for the people. In 1988, I ran for the board, and I'm still speaking for those people that really can't, get through anything. So, but I think Shaftsbury has an excellent school, and I think Mount Anthony is trying to make that stride to get our graduation rate up and get more subjects for these students, because they're going to need them.
That's a great question, and I've thought about it long and hard, and I believe that when we merge, whether I'm elected or not elected, I'd like to see subcommittees take on some of these special action problems. I know my role on the CDC board, we did the same thing. Even though we have a board, we have several subcommittees, and these subcommittees look at the picture and they solve problems, and then they bring that to the board. And there's no reason that we can't do that for the total, all boards when they combine.
The way the merger set up is the bare bones merger right now. Is the articles are the bones of the merger. The meat will be added when we start making it. So when we go live in July 1st, 2019, there will be some meat in that. And I think making the policies so Shaftsbury is, proactive, I guess, with their educational things they've put in place over the years. And it's not, and for a couple years down the road, I think you'll see a lot of the trickle-down effects of how, I hate to say it, the meat part of the merger is going to come together. And that's something that I think you have to look at.
Well, Bennington is going to have a larger seat at the table, as everyone knows, and I think that will continue to be the theme throughout. I think getting more community members involved, getting them to come out and talk to us and let us know what they need, rather than us operating in a vacuum, I think is going to be an asset and how I would continue to work as a board member.
Well, I'd like to make sure that everybody knows how to get in touch with me if anybody has any concerns, obviously. I like working with like Sandy and Melissa and all the folks down there. Again, they're just, I can't say enough about them. They are just really awesome. If people keep in touch with me, I can do what I can. I mean, I wouldn't be alone, obviously. So, but again, I'm just concerned about the school itself because I love that school. It's a passionate thing.
15 seconds left.
I think that's going to depend a lot on how it is settled in the parameters within which the board will operate. It's difficult to say until we get those. But with the makeup of the board, I still have concerns that some of the outlying districts, particularly in Woodford and Pownal and Shaftsbury, may have a difficult time implementing programs that they feel are going to be beneficial for the kids.